Chapter 1. The Bataks. Society, Government and Classes. Among the Bataks, the government no longer rests in the hands of the chiefs magas, but the territorial unit of village huta is governing unit. Among the toba, this is the only unit of government, whereas among the Karo, most of the large villages are subdivided into hamlets, each with its own name. Each of these hamlets has its own chief, territory and settlements outside of the principal village. Formerly wars between hamlets cosign were not infrequent. As among the people of Minangkabau and Gayo, the Bataks had the institution of divine kingship, unquestionably of Hindu origin. The Singa Maharaja resided among the Pakpak and was a human fetish for all the Batak people, but had no temporal power. All kinds of wonders were related about him. His mother had carried him for 7 years under her heart. To look at his word was certain death. He spoke with a closed mouth and gave his comments in writing. He could remain 7 months without food, plunged in deep sleep, and attended by spirits. He governed rain and sunshine, and the people prayed to him for their crops. The Singa Maharaja was killed in battle fighting the Dutch in 1907, and his family became converted to Christianity. Of more particular importance was the influence exerted by the Hindus among the Timur and Karo Bataks towards state formation. The Timur districts, ruled by Rajas and their families, are the only Raj territorial units. These, however, are often conglomerations of almost independent units and have somewhat the appearance of the feudal states of the Middle Ages. All minerals, including the heads of the villages, must belong to the family of the Raja. Among the Karo confederations of villages, often are found the word Urung, actually meaning association of villages. Yet the village Kuta itself remains the true unit of government. Apart from the Toba Batak, the form of government is truly democratic. The actual affairs of state are conducted in the Sopos before the assembled people and consist outside of the rare consultations with foreign rajas or with the ambassadors of the following matters: to settle boundary disputes, to surrender village dwellers who have fled octaves, who have been set, to conclude peace negotiations, to arrange patterns of trade, or to form alliance against the enemy. Among the people of the village, the Raja investigates and settles various disputes. He makes known judgments and punishments, whether this consists of fines or of death penalty. The order promulgated by the Rajas must conform to the Adat, are then deliberated over where all adult men of the village and finally decided upon by a majority and the council held in the Supu. And a Raja probably would be more despotic were it not for fear of losing his constituents. When a village is oppressed by its Raja and wrongfully treated, the members leave and place themselves under the protection of a neighboring Raja who always received them with open arms since they strengthened his power. When the seceding fighters their animated back and this refused, what invariably follows. In fact, this is an important cause of the constant inter-village warfare. While all Bataks have the right of admittance into the Sopo, as a rule only adult are married. Males have voice in the government. Women, however, often get their opinions into the council house, and not only are heard, but if it happens to be the opinion of an elder shaman, agreed. Outside of the inheritance of the power and decorations, namely the special arm wigs and embroidered tunics. The Rajas have few prior rights over the people, and since taxes are unknown, have no fixed income. However, they obtain the free labor of their subjects in working the rice fields and building their houses. Likewise, when a chief goes on a trip, he is accompanied free of charge by a number of his subjects who carries baggage. Chiefs also receive a portion of fine leave and ransoms paid in work, and share the booty obtained by the subjects when hunting, fishing, or gathering wild products in the jungle. The Rajas, however, procure their chief income through head, especially, especially cattle trade, and thus they become wealthier than their village mates. As soon as they are sufficiently wealthy, they purchase slaves to work their fields. The products of the field form thus their only fixed income, and since they themselves consider manual work undignified, slaves are the chief source of wealth. Many Rajas, however, are as poor as the poorest village members, although they have bigger and better houses. Only a few are rich, and this is true trade, which in Batak land is conducted almost entirely by the Rajas. As is usual among primitive people, the executive Raja of a village is chosen from among members of a certain eligible family. Thus, primitive succession to office is a combination of inheritance and election. The family from which the Raja is chosen must be a part of a ship which is spoken of as the ruling ship. The wives of a Raja must always be members of a second ship, and the men from this second ship always marry women of the ruling ship. This system has been thought to be a survival for the time when there were but two ships among the Bataks, that is, when the Bataks has a multi system of exogamy. Among the Garo, the five main ships are to be found in every village. Although in every district a certain one is in the majority and is generally said to be the oldest one in the region, as well as the ruling one, irrespective of actual power of following. Every male representative of this ship calls himself Raja or Sibayak, rich, illustrious. In some villages, there are more there are more Rajas than subjects. In Toba, however, the government has cut down the number of Rajas considerably. In Timur, while there is a ruling ship, there appears to be no ship having the function of furnishing wives for the Rajas. Notwithstanding the strife as to precedence within the villages, a unit front is maintained is dealing with outsiders. Thus in Toba, the chief Rajas is called Raja Huta Town Raja, and he alone deals with other villages. Sometimes, however, this rank is split between two men, a man and his brother-in-law. One then has charge of the village internal affairs, and the other deals with outside communities. The rule passes from father to son or younger brother according to fitness. The Rajas deal with inter-village matters abroad and act as judges at home. Batak society before the free of slaves was divided into three ranks: the nobles, the commoners, and the slaves. The noble the nobles were members of the ruling ship who were not actual executive Rajas. Only the nobles were allowed to own slaves, and at least in southern Batak land, only the nobles were allowed to practice polygyny. In criminal code, the punishment of nobles was more severe, but they were judged more leniently. An insult to a person was judged according to the rank of the offended person. Formerly, it was not possible for a commoner to improve his position to improve his position. He was born to the territory in which he was born and was allowed to move out without the consent of his Raja. The commoners and slaves had to support the nobility since they did no work. Slavery was practiced everywhere in Batak and lasted until 1914 samosir, and when the last of the slaves were free. Besides slavery, people were taken as pawns in southern Batak land. This changed into slavery when the debt could not be paid off in a fixed time. The best description of Batak slavery is furnished by Nomin and treats of southern Batak land. People become slaves. One, two breed, two birth. Two by contrast. Three, through debt. Four, to juridical sentence. Five by work. Six by chapter. 1. Children born of a slave woman were slaves. Of a free man, of a free woman were free, irrespective of the status of their father. This adat was the reverse of the customary Batak patrilineal following. 2. People was born themselves for a certain period of time and later were unable to redeem themselves. This must have been done as a voluntary contract and did not include wives and children who had been born by the husband. 3. True debt, other than the than other than that contracted to pay the bride price, whether debt was to pay at fixed time. The creditor had the right to take the debtor in pawn or as a slave if the amount was large and of long standing. For a person who was unable to pay a fine was made a slave. For several crimes, such as murder and theft, there existed a death penalty, but this could be commuted to slavery. 5. Prisoners of war were sometimes kept after peace had been declared and made slaves. This was done as an act of blood revenge. 6. Before the Dutch rule, certain chiefs made their living by brigands, capturing goods and people, and selling the people as slaves. This happened mostly in the mountain regions. While the slave was the absolute property of his master in Timur and could be crippled or even killed at will, in southern Batak he was amply protected by the Adat. Here, while he was the property of his master, he also was considered a member of the general community. Wounding, crippling, or even the sale of the slave could only be effected by court order. On the other hand, the master could order the slave to do any kind of work and could beat him for disobedience. If the slave committed a crime, he had to be brought into court. If slave ran away, he was caught, bound, and placed in the stocks. If he repeatedly ran away by court orders, he was crippled by having his kneecaps broken to prevent repetition of the offense. However, the master was compelled to support the slave, was responsible for his debts, and had to pay the fine the slave incurred. Slaves were divided into two classes: house slaves, and field slaves. The house slave fetched the water, cut kindling wood, took care of the children, and accompanied his master on trips. The field slave lived in the field, which he made and tilled for his master, gathered the crops and produced products. He lived off the yield of his field, and by having more time than the house slave, often was able to acquire sufficient capital to purchase his freedom. The field slave has to be married, thus assuring his master that he would not escape, and his lot was superior to that of the house slave. A slave could purchase his freedom. Slaves also obtained their freedom at the funeral rites of prominent chiefs. One of the slaves stood under the body of the corpse when it was washed, and if any of the water fell upon him, he was declared free. Freed slaves other than prisoners of war, were obliged to remain in the same village in which they were freed, and likewise their children. Otherwise, they had all the rights of the free. The lot of slaves in southern Batak land was but little worse than that of the commoners. Nevertheless, they did not like the name of the slaves Hatoban, nor did they enjoy being treated as commodities and having their marriages arranged. The custom of pawnship was borrowed from Malays. If a man had debt he could not pay, he was forced to borrow from his chief, since the chief was responsible for the debts of his subjects. The man himself was then held as security and had to work for the chief and was not allowed to leave the village. The chief never collected his debts in full, for he felt the possession of his subjects more than wealth or goods. Thus, the subjects of Raja were virtually his slaves, in fact, even though not in name, since interest was reckoned at 100%. If the pawn was not able to pay off a good portion of the debt, the first year amount due was doubled. In 2 or 3 years, the debt increased sufficiently to equal the price of a slave, and then the debtor loses his freedom. The heirs of Bata inherited debts as well as possessions. The heirs of a pawn, however, were not placed in pawnship. Land rights. The Batak ships formerly were territorial. In Palembang, the Batak word for ship marga indicates a district, and among the Garos, the ships still are territorial. In Batak, at present day, the ships are above all the owners of the land, which is then called the Golat of the Marga. Elsewhere, it is the community of villages, Urung, etc., or even the village which can be regarded as the landowner. Evidently, there has been a change in recent times, and the ships, which primarily were territorial units, have now become governmental units. This change is illustrated by the fact that the ruling Marga is a district in the oldest Marga. Formerly, there were no other ships present in the district. Now there are, but the ruling Marga has kept control the Batak land by maintaining control of the rule. The book explains this transition as follows. Formerly, no matter how large a Marga was, its members lived in the fortified village huta or village complex. Such a toba village consisted of 1. The people of the Marga, 2. Those who marry in from other Margas, 3. Strangers Darang, and 4. Debtors, mostly slaves Hatuan. The members of such a Marga stayed as near together as possible. When overexpanded, some members left, but they remained in the district. Later on, at the time of the East Indian Company, for instance, there were fewer wars, and the Marga broke up into numerous subdivisions. New villages were founded as distant from one another as possible. Under such conditions, the people no longer regarded themselves as being descended from the old Marga ancestor Kubu, but from a much later one, the village founder. Often, as the marriage price became high enough to be burdensome, men married matrilocaly, and this brought about an infusion of alien Margas into the village. While the first comers thus kept the rule, the village itself, and now the ship became the unit of government. Each Marga in the village has its own grounds, which it rents out to the members of the ship. As noted in this discussion, whether a village, i.e. the Raja and the ruling ship, or the various ships, have control of the land, and the question of actual ownership never comes to the fore. There is no true possession of land, as rated by European concept for land, can neither be given away, sold, or pawned. The right of possession only can be gained by cultivation of the field. Strangers must obtain permission to cultivate from the ship or the village chief. The use of land is inherited within the family of the first cultivator. Laws. As it is as is customary among primitive people whose code of law rests primarily on the demands of an aggrieved family or for blood revenge or work guilt. Most of the complaints brought forward are of a civil rather than criminal nature, are thoughts rather than crimes. This fact has led many writers on the Bataks to assume that the Batak knows no distinction between civil and criminal code. This statement, however, is truer for the Minangkabau than for the Batak, for the latter were well on the road to the construction of petty states, and treason not only was a crime, but a capital offense. According to native Batak adat, the chiefs are the judges and the aggrieved party the accuser. Every case has to be ferreted back to some injury either. Evidence usually is taken through material tokens tanda. In case of doubtful or incomplete evidence, a purification oath is required. Formally, the ordeal also was restored to. The court is held in the chapel or in the open. Personal disputes as over land or the payment of a bride price do not come into court but are brought before a third party who tries to make the contenders come to terms. If he failed in formal days, work followed. The chief crimes are murder, theft, adultery, and insult. If a widow marries some man other than a near relative of her deceased husband, this also is treated as adultery. The special punishments meted out in time of war have already been noted. The punishments as listed for certain Batak are as follows. 1. The death of the criminal and his nearest blood relatives. 2. The death of the criminal. 3. The slaying of the criminal and his household. 4. Banning forever. 5. Banning. 6. Paying of graded fines. There are 11 grades. 7. Putting in block. 8. Whipping for slaves only. Loss of rank on power or power of franchise. 10. Sira asam, lime and salt formerly being eaten. The Batak have 3 varieties of collective responsibility. The first variety is a natural responsibility, the consequence of the solidarity of relationships. In the same way, a host is responsible for the actions of his guests, and a chief for the actions of his subjects in another territory. A chief also is responsible for the actions of the subjects of another chief in his own territory. The second variety of responsibility is one which is voluntarily selected, while all of one's kin are responsible for the actions of a man. Certain chosen ones are especially responsible in court, and these are called the Anakbogo and the Sinina. The matter will be treated under kinship usage. Finally, there is the collective responsibility of village mates. Oath and ordeal. The oath and ordeal formally played a large role in Batak law cases, especially when material evidence was not of a convincing nature. We already have said the warfare among the Bataks, and the same thing was true among the Minangkabau, was in itself often a form of ordeal, for the side which lost the first matter was judged the guilty party. Naturally, the oath and ordeal are but two sides of the same psychology, for the oath itself is a form of ordeal in which the perjurer will be punished by the gods. Therefore, among the Bataks, as among most primitive people, and even the civilized Greeks and Romans, there often is no punishment in the native adat for perjury. Oath and ordeal must be considered a part of the Hindu, or more probably the Hindu, complex of traits which penetrated to Sumatra, the East Indies, New Guinea, and even to Polynesia. Fireworking as practiced in India was originally an ordeal ruled over by Agni, god of fire. This same custom in Polynesia, however, was no longer an ordeal. The more backward peoples of the earth, as the Andaman Islanders, the Australians, and the American Indians lacked like the oath and ordeal. The Africans added a new form of ordeal, the posted ordeal for the detection of witches, which is not found elsewhere. All the people of Sumatra, including even the primitive Kubu, had the oath and ordeal. Among the natives of the western islands, the people of Nias has the trait, but the Mentawei islanders are without it. In the Batak law code, testimony is not given under oath. If the truth of a statement is doubted, an oath may be demanded of the witness. If this is refused, the testimony does not pass as valid. The Batak is very easygoing in his use of the oath of Pogisian Ghana. He cooks without the quiver of an eyelash himself and his entire family, even when he is guilty. There is a considerable list of oath formulas, usually the oath, which is an attestation invoking the names of the ancestors or gods, is accompanied by some symbolical act of death. Thus, one pierces the heart of a slaughtered animal, crushes a frog, or more simply, swears by an undistinguished firebrand or by a grave. Naturally, the seer invokes a like fate upon himself if he commits perjury. The ordeal is a severer form of the oath, and which a guilty man is loath to undertake. If the ordeal goes against the accused, for example, if a dying chicken falls into its right side, a confession usually follows. Among the toba, the institution of hopok was formerly a festive affair, to which the priest thereto, the chief of the person from whom the article was stolen, and the chief of the accused were invited. The hopok was served as a means of recovering stolen objects, but not cattle. The priest, as well as a representative of the family or village of the accused, likewise submitted to the test. No sharpened weapons could be brought to the ordeal, although the accustomed sometimes challenged the priest to an ordeal with the edged weapons. The time of the trial was determined by the priest with the aid of the magic calendar, and notice given 4 weeks beforehand. In every case, an exorcism formula was chanted by the priest invoking the hopok to set free the innocent and kill the guilty. The gods and ancestors likewise were invoked. The usual hopok fell into two varieties, eating trials and fire trials. At the eating trials, the accused had to take a handful of soaked rice or rice meal and swallow it without the aid of liquid. If the accused preferred, he was allowed to swallow Spanish paper without wincing. In the fire trial, the accused stuck his hand in boiling lead of molten iron. Walking over molten iron was another form of the fire trial, as in the Philippines and elsewhere in Indonesia. The ordeal by the water also was common. The custom was stuck in the pond, and if guilty, he died. Inheritance. Women and children are denied right of inheritance and must be supported by adult males. When the adult is more strictly observed, the law of ultimogenitor holds, and the youngest son has the most rights, and then the eldest. Usually, both the youngest and eldest differ equally in preference to the other sons. No difference is made between the claims of sons of different wives. In southern Batak land, the rule of inheritance has been summarized by Wheeler as follows: the sons inherit from their father, grandfather, and further gets in the ascending lines. At death of their sons, the grandchildren inherit. The grandchildren inherit. If anyone dies without leaving male descendants, then his father inherits, or if he is deceased, the brother's sons or his nephews. If all of these are dead, then the heads of the right family inherits. As long as there are male descendants, all gets in the ascending or sidelines are excluded. Marriage restrictions. The Bataks have exogamous patrilineal ships. These, however, have been so broken down by the altered conditions of Batak life. Then now it is difficult to state the number of ships among most of the Batak divisions, and the laws of ship exogamy no longer are strictly adhered to. The cargo Bataks have 5 main marga, each of which is said to have been founded by a fictitious tribal brothers. There are no ships at the head of the marga of submarga. The fewest ships among the cargo cannot produce genealogical records of descendants from the marga founders, as in Toba and elsewhere. The 5 main marga are Kago-Kago, Tarigan, Ginting, Perangin-angin, Sembiring. The marga are divided into sub-marga, also called marga, and these again are divided into family groups called houses, rumah. It is absolutely forbidden to marry into one's sub-marga or into one's marga if it is one of the first 3 of the above named. In the case of the fourth, this restriction is less absolute. In the fifth, there are many endogamous marriages. It is impossible to state accurately the number and names of ships as well. Tideman, however, writes that the Timur have 4 main marga, Damanik, Sinaga, Saragen, Purba. Among the Toba, there is no accurate account of the number of ships existing, while some authors have claimed that the Toba have 5 main ships, as have the Karo, Vandik, Warner, and Brenner claim only 2, thus giving the Batak communities. Brenner, in fact, writes that the Bataks have 2 main ships, the Tartarol and Tivaliol. These are then subdivided into subships, 8 subships possessing a group of villages and taking its name for the chief of these villages. Justra believes that this statement is correct and that there are 2 groups, the one composed of the descendants of Tuan Haring Godan and the other of Saribu Raja. In general, a man must marry a woman of a different ship and both ships not to be the same origin. With the exception of cross-cousin marriage, a cargo man also is supposed to marry a woman of different ships than his mother's. Every child is instructed regarding his father's and mother's ship. Justra writes of the cargo, who call the father's ship Marga and the mother's Bebere. All conversation between 2 strangers begins with a mutual questioning in regard to this point. This act to questioning is for the purpose of explaining in what family relation of the 2 stand, and then the decision is reached as to whether one can call one another by the name or make use of another appellation such as uncle, aunt, brother-in-law, family, mother, etc. A man always begins by addressing a strange man as silly brother-in-law. A woman addresses another woman as bibi, father's sister. A woman speaks to a stranger man as ama, mother's brother. A woman also can call a strange woman kadi or teman, friend. If 2 people are of the same marga, even though they be of different bebere, then the family relationship is very close. According as to whether they are of the same of different age groups, there are siblings, father and child, aunt and nephew, niece, etc. The relation is not so close as blood relationship, but is more than a bare name due to marriage taboos. Sexual intercourse between them relatives is regarded as incest. If the marker differs but the bebere is the same, then the family relationship is still intimate but not so close. One still can be another person's brother, senina, but this relation is usually called a senina si pemeran. A marriage between a youth and a girl of the same bebere cannot be made unless they belong to the different subdivisions of the bebere. In Mandailing, in former times, there was no other rule regarding incest between close blood relatives, as this was too exceptional. Incest between those who called themselves iboto, sibling, was punished by death. If a girl fled with a man who was not actually related to her but was of the same mother, the youth man was fined the amount of her marriage price, and the girl was condemned to celibacy or married beneath her rank and in a distant place. Totemism. The Batak still have strong indications of totemism connected with their ship organization. Certain ships are believed to be descended from certain animals. These animals are said to belong to the ships, and the ship members are forbidden to eat their flesh. According to Neumann and according to Neumann, the Southern Batak have the following totems: tiger, panther, etc. to Maga Babiat, dog to Maga Tompul, ape, goat to Maga Siregar, doors to Maga Harahap, white buffalo to Maga Nasution, cat to Maga Sipospos Puspus. These sheep are forbidden to eat above named animals because, according to many accounts, they are descended from them. The Karo Bataks have similar food taboos and similar animals belonging to their Magas. A part of the Karo believes themselves to be descended from the daughter of a giant snake. Formerly, in the court of the divine ruler Singamangaraja, snakes were fed and were considered sacred. Cousin marriage. A man is supposed to marry his mother's brother's daughter, but is not allowed to marry his father's sister's daughter. The woman may be either the daughter of the mother's brother, of the or the granddaughter of the mother's brother's father, but the first cousin is chosen by preference. While the specific cousin relation, however, is called tunanang, the toba uses this title also for every woman he is allowed to marry. Due to the fact that no village statistics of family genealogies are available for the Bataks, it is impossible to state the frequency of cross-cousin marriage. Mirwat asserts that among the Toba this form of marriage is not frequent. It will be mere chance, he claims, if a man has a daughter and his sister and son, and these two work sisapi rime to one another. If a man has a suitable cousin and does not marry her, but someone else, he tax his maternal uncle present and tries to reconcile him. There is no law about the matter, but a marriage between cross cousins is considered the proper form of marriage. Well, I am told that in Angola a man does not pay a lower marriage price for a cousin. Justra claims that among the Karo the sum is less than would ordinarily be asked, and in some cases no price is demanded at all. Mirwa states the same for the Toba. Marriage with the father's sister's daughter is treated under the criminal code. The Batak explained the prohibition by saying, how is it possible the water can flow back to its origin? However, in the third generation, a man is allowed to marry a sister on his paternal side, while at the present time all cousins of the opposite sex who are not daughters of the maternal uncle are avoided if they were actually sisters. Many Bataks claim that formerly, when the people were still in few numbers, it was permitted to marry the father's sister's daughter. This type of union, however, caused the wrath of the gods, and the custom was accordingly stopped. While polygyny is practiced by the Bataks, a man is not allowed to take two full sisters in marriage simultaneously, nor it is even permitted for two men of the same mother to take two full sisters as wives. The people say that this would be like putting two whetstones on one ring. Life right and sorrow right. According to the rigorous patrilineal are that of the Bataks. A woman is a child of the property of her father, as a woman the property of her husband, and after his death the property of his male relatives. Upon the completion of the payment of the marriage price, the woman becomes the property of her husband's ship. Thus, a woman whose marriage is regarded as complete is not only bound to her husband but, by his death, to his family, so that she is guilty of breaking the marriage bonds if upon his decease she refuses one of his brothers, nephews, sons, or nearest male relatives to take the place of her husband. This refusal would have as its consequence that she became the slave of the village chief. In the absence of male blood relatives, the woman passes to a shipkin. If the inheritor does not wish to marry the woman, he has to support her. Actually, a woman is not inherited as if she were descended, since she can regain her freedom by repayment of the marriage price. Or if she has not the proper amount of money, she at least has the choice as to which of her husband's relatives she will have in marriage. Among the toba, if a woman has a son, it is not deemed necessary that she remarry within the family. Neumann gives the regulations of the revirat and sororat of the Sultan Bata as follows. At the death of a man, his inheritance and also his wife's go to the waris Arabic heir, who usually is the younger brother or the eldest son. If the younger brother is the heir and wishes to take the wife of his brother in marriage, she must comply. With sons, stepsons, the other varies. Marriage with a stepson at present day is forbidden, but formerly an elder stepson could marry his stepmother when the father was dead. The actual mother either remains a widow or is taken by a younger brother-in-law. A younger brother-in-law. If there are no younger brothers-in-law, or they will not have her, she can enter into another marriage with the consent of her son. In some places, a father is waris of his son and is allowed to marry his daughter-in-law. If the waris does not wish to marry the widow of his testator, he can give her to one of his brothers. If these also do wish to marry her, the widow is free to make her own choice with the consent of the waris. If a woman dies, if a woman dies childless, and the full marriage price has been paid, the father is obliged to furnish another woman as substitute. The best substitute is one of the younger sisters of the deceased or another young girl of her kindred. The widower then pays a small sum in gold to his father-in-law. If, however, the woman had already given birth to a child, there is no obligation to do this. In this case, the father-in-law at the birth of the first child would have sent his daughter a small present as a token that his son-in-law had nothing further to expect. The son-in-law would then return a small present to the father-in-law. Thus, the jujur marriage price purchases not only the wife, but the wife and one child. It is general rule among the Bataks that a man who marries a widow assumes all debts, assumes all the debts of the deceased husband. A widower, a, wid, a widow or widower must wait a year before remarriage. Failure to do this is not punished, but hasty party is ridiculed. The actual and presumably oldest status of marital choice is summed up by the toba word voorhoeve. A man should marry his voorhoeve, that is, first his wife's younger sister, secondly his mother's brother's daughter, and thirdly any other woman of his mother's ship and his own age class. All these women, all these women, all these women a man calls voorhoeve, and he is on a joking or free relationship with them. On the other hand, a man avoids his sisters. On the other hand, a man avoids his sisters, his wife's elder sisters, and his father's sister's daughters, all of whom he regards as sisters. The younger sister of a wife also calls her brother-in-law Puriban. A woman calls her husband's younger brother Puriban, and two men whose wives are sisters call one another Puriban. Among the Karo, the female child of the mother's brother and the male child of father's sister are called impal. These, these two are impal to one another and should marry. Kinship usage. Among the Batak's avoidances seem to be based solely on the principle that all appearance of wrongdoing should be prevented. If a man and woman are alone together, or if they even exchange a few words, they at once come under suspicion. Incest between family members is a thing to be avoided at all costs, and it will arouse the wrath of the gods and lead to disaster. The taboos therefore are strictest between brothers and sisters. A brother and sister would be embarrassed at being together even when others were present. The rules regulating the actions of parents and children are less strict, but a father should not be alone in the house with his daughter nor a mother with her son. Justra, who records these taboos, admits that the most of them are very necessary. In general, people of the opposite sex who may not marry are taboo to one another, while those of the opposite sex who may marry, and especially those who should marry, are on free terms or in joking relationship with one another. There is no evidence of joking relationship between people of the same sex. A father-in-law is very polite to his daughter-in-law. If he has anything if he has anything to say to her, he does it through a third party. He is not allowed to utter her name, just as he is not allowed to mention the name of his own wife. He calls her by her ship. He calls her by her ship name, or says, daughter of so and so. The daughter-in-law is also very polite to her father-in-law. She does not speak direct to him, but makes use of a third party. If the father-in-law comes her way, she steps aside. On the other hand, a girl is very friendly with her mother-in-law, who always calls her by her name. The greatest intimacy arises when the mother-in-law is also her father's sister. A man and his mother-in-law are on avoidance terms, but the man is on very intimate terms with his father-in-law. If the father-in-law also is the man's man, if it is the man's mother's brother, he is called second father. In the fact, among the Batak, the bond between a man and his parents-in-law is stronger than the bond between a man and his own family. In the same way, a man avoids the wife of his younger brother, and she avoids him. They may not speak to one another, and if they pass on the way, the man steps aside or, if this is not possible, the woman turns her back. A man also avoids his bow, the wife of the brother of his wife. On the other hand, intercourse between proper cousins is very free, and they are said to stand outside the customary law. When they talk together or appear openly together on the market, no one has anything to say in opposition. They joke and exchange riddles or play on words and songs. Usually, it is forbidden for an engaged couple to speak to one another in the house of the girl's parents, but cousins are not ashamed to do this. They are purposely left alone together so that they may become better acquainted. Likewise, a younger brother is allowed to speak to the wife of his older brother and joke with her. For for his brother dies, the woman will become his wife. If the wife of the brother is also close cousin, a still greater liberty in speech may be assumed. Among the Bataks, men and women stand in definite relationship to both the members of their own ship and to the members of the ship into which they marry. Men and women of the same ship and of the same age class are fictitious brothers and sisters. Thus, in Ankola, all the men of the same ship and generation call one another Samarga, and all women of the same ship and generation Paribotuan sisters. In the Dairi dialect, in the Dairi dialect, the people who belong to the same ship call one another Senina, literary mothers members or members of common mother. Among the Toba, the expression Dongan Saina in a mother is used, but only for those in the same submarga, while theoretically, at least among the Karo, a man should not marry a woman from his mother's marga, or the kinship terms seem in consonance with just this form of marriage, and it is considered proper that a man marry his mother's brother's daughter, and woman her father's sister's son. The Toba men called the elder relatives of his mother Hula Hula or Bonaniari, origin of his life or beginning of these days, regardless of whether he has married his cousin or not. But if he married elsewhere, he has a secondary set of Hula Hula relatives from whom he has actually obtained his wife. The hula hula relatives must always be treated with the greatest respect. Failure to do this is liable to incur the wrath of the gods. One must hold these relatives in high honor, this being shown by representing them with food and by the manner in which one speaks to them. If the mother's brother asks for a present or for money, this must, if possible, be given. Above all, is if one has married his daughter. If a man has had a fight with his own parents, he flees to his mother's brother. Yet circumstances alter cases, and if the hula hula are rich, they are very honored, but if poor, they are despised. In latter case, a man avoids marriage with his lawful cousin. This remains a certain legal and social aspect to the relationship between two intermarrying ships which requires discussion. In the Toba language, when a man marries, he becomes the anak boru, male daughter to the father of his wife, and all the male relatives, i.e. anak boru for the entire ship. The reciprocal term is tondong. Tideman has shown that these two terms express a relationship between the two ships, and that while all ship members of the men entering marriage are anak boru to the tondong, and most important is the one called anak boru si kahanan, kaha meaning old. The tondong, besides having his anak boru, also has the male members of his own ship as attendants, and this he called Senina of one mother, Sadaina of his Senina. The most important one is his Senina si kahanan. The anak boru is a hostage who has full responsibility for the actions of his tondong. If the tondong does not conform to the adat or does not pay his debts, the anak boru is held responsible. If the anak boru si kahanan must pay the debt and cannot, he calls the other anak boru together and they all share in the payment. The only the only advantage the anak boru has against the many disadvantages under which he suffers is that they face in certain ceremonials he obtains some clothes and a part of the slaughtered animal. On the other hand, the anak boru must at marriages and certain feasts give a small sum of money The anak bogu Senina come together at all important family matters, as for instance a death. Then questions such as inheritance and succession to office are discussed. Thus, in Toba and Timur, the anak bogu relationship appears to have developed from the duties among a nephew house among the Bataks to his maternal uncle. Among the Karo, however, the choice of Anakbog and Senina seems somewhat different. Here also, the Senina is a ship brother, but the Anakbog is not a member of the ship into which a man marries. He is usually a man's brother-in-law that is a member of the ship into which one's sister marries. According to Justra, as soon as a youth begins a youth begins to take part in social and private life, that is when he marries. He cannot be without an anak bogu and a senina. The anak bogu plays the chief part in the Trinity. He corresponds to the Malay-Arabic word wakil, again of representative, but is more but is more but is more useful. The ABS relationship rests entirely on these grounds. 1. That for every legal transaction, an account must be given. 2. That in the absence of written records, the matter must be witnessed as far as possible. Punishments, fines, stocks may be exacted from any one of the three. Every ruler among the Batak has his anak bogu and his senina at his side, and this aid him in his governmental transactions. The Maga from which the men of the ruling Maga called Bayo Maga, that their wives is the Boru Maga. Marriage and courtship in Indonesia as a whole, there is a wide divergence concerning the demand made on women for prenuptial chastity, while the generalization has been made that such chastity is prized in patrilineal areas and not demanded in areas having the bilateral family, yet the yet even the patrilineal Batak are divided on this point. Among the Northerners, especially the Toba, sexual freedom before marriage is taken for granted, while among many of the people of the south of the girls' houses serve the special purpose of protecting the chastity of the inmates. Everywhere child betrothals serve the future of young girls for their future husbands. Usually, among primitive peoples, courtship and marriage have little or nothing to do with each other. The first has for its object the obtainment of sexual gratification, is often aided by magic, and is entirely an affair between the two interested parties, who merely abide by the rules prohibiting incest and adultery. Marriage, on the other hand, is an exchange between families or ships, is arranged by a third party, and the interest couple are, at the most, asked to give their consent. Among the Bataks, however, courtship very quietly leads to marriage, especially where the pregnancy occurs. There is no dainty cake on which a fly fails to sit, runs a famous Batak saying, and likewise a Batak husband expects his wife to be a hard worker but does not inquire too closely into her past. Many occasions are given boys and girls by which they can become acquainted. In the course of their work in the rice fields, and at the time of feast, they mingle freely with one another. Full license is allowed by the young couples, provided they come from different ships and obey the proper rules of decorum. Among the South Batak, these gatherings are called Magtandang, and name also employed for the feasts the youth paid pay the girls for the women's communal houses. In Toba, intercourse between the sexes is especially free, and the youth and girls often have a form of competition in which four-line rim couples are exchanged. Whoever loses has to pay for a forfeit. The boy gives a piece of his clothing, a knife, or some other trinket. The girl gives herself. The youths have various means which they employ to win the favor of the young men. Courtship takes place within the village and close in the evenings and is called taruan by the toba. The young men sing erotic songs accompanied by the notes of a mouth flute made from the stalks of large sugar palm leaves. Charms dogma are employed as well as counter charms taken as prophylaxis the girls. For it is thought that love charms lead to unhappy marriages when successful. Sacrifices have to be made to the love charms, which are sung over by the makers. Still another method of courtship is more prosaic and is called gambir di toro by the toba. The youth pays the girl for her vows but obtains a rebate of the marriage price if a wedding between the two climaxes the romance. In cases where the young couple form a permanent attachment for each other or when the young girl becomes pregnant, a marriage results. Thus, among the southern Batak young girls of 10 or 11 are called bujing, are considered of marriageable age and sleep in the woman's communal house. Bagas Podoman under the charge of a responsible woman. All the unmarried men of the community have the right to enter a Padoman. They come in small groups with lights burning and speak to the young woman, offer them siri, and remain until the chaperone gives them a signal to depart. If the visit of one of the courtiers has been successful, the girl speaks about the matter with her parents and obtains their consent. Then, on a following night, the young man comes in front of the court of the Padoman and calls out the name of the daughter of his choice. She leaves the house with him, and together they go to an empty sopo communal house without bells and where they spend the night together according to the other in chastity. This elopement is called mermayam. After this, the young man, accompanied by his relatives, asks the elders of the girl for her hand in marriage. He gives the relatives a pledge tanda such as an arm ring, and then the couple are engaged. While Batak girls are, as a rule, allowed to conduct themselves as they will before they become engaged, they must not become pregnant. If a woman, either as girl or widow, becomes pregnant to be without being able to marry her lover, all marks of womanhood, such as her hair, are taken from her, or she can be compelled to marry a man of lower rank. Because of the unusual license allowed the young men in their treatment of women, it is not only allowed but proper that a young man should attack a young man if he meet her alone. The women are given legal means whereby they can force the guilty lovers into marriage. A proposal of marriage on the part of the girl is called mahiyompo. This is done as publicly as possible. The girl takes the greater part of her belongings, walks across the village in broad daylight, and climbs up to the house of the elders of the young man. If she is allowed to remain a certain length of time, the young man must marry her. If the girl has no token of the man's guilt, such as a piece of his clothing, or if they have not been seen together by witnesses, she can be ejected. If she has proof, however, the man must either marry her or pay the bride price without their marriage. Few Batak men will pay the price and not take the purchase. Often a girl will take the risk of being ejected since he has no proof but is merely in love with a man upon whom she has happened to cast her eyes. Possibly ejection is in this case is very much feared by a girl since it lowers her repute and with it her and with it her and with it her bride price. There are, however, two forms of mahiyompo. One is called manaik and is really an elopement form of marriage. It is done for the purpose of avoiding trouble and expense of formal wedding and is entered into the knowledge of the girl's parents or even after long engagement. The word manaik merely means to mount up. In this case, the full marriage price is paid. In Mandakit, however, the parents of the girl are not consulted and the act is often against their will. The girl in this case usually is pregnant or fears that she will be abandoned by her lover. While the marriage price remains the same, only a small portion is paid off and the wedding is complete with the killing of a carabao engagement. In Toba, as well as elsewhere among the Batak, girls are often sought into marriage before being actually born. The expectant father may be in debt and pressed for immediate money. The custom whereby a man receives the marriage price or a portion of it and as yet has no daughter is called Morburu Tapang. As soon as the daughter is born to him, the father of the groom comes with his presents. The village chief is invited, a maid, a male is held, Rastun, or the heads of the boy and girl, and both given favorable names. Then the pair are considered engaged, and such contracts often lead later on to marriage. Between adults, engagements can be closed by sending the elders of the boy of the girl and slaughtering a carabao. More simply, engagements can be announced by the sending of a piece of cloth or a weapon. After an engagement, marriage usually does not take place for a long time. The youth during the period of the engagement is free to live with the girl. He helps the elders in the fields and is fed by them. This custom is followed so that 1. Both parties can become well acquainted and accustomed to each other. 2. So that the youth will be certain that the girl will not give herself to another. 3. In order that the youth during the period can perform service in order to be able to pay off the marriage price. In the case of noble, a slave can be employed for this service as well as to watch over the girl. The reverse of this situation can also occur, namely that during engagement the girl is taken to live with the parents of the boy. This manner of treatment arises from mistrust on the side of the youth's family, who fear that the girl will give herself to other men, and if the marriage is very much desired by both families. Such a procedure also only takes place when the groom is too young to marry. The girl, the girl steps entirely into the position of daughter-in-law, parumain, and performs the usual housework and rice stamping. The bride price. The bride price is the sum of money paid the man's side to the woman's side. The South Sumatra name The South Sumatra name Jujur is the best known to Europeans. The Bataks regard the payment of the price as a legitimate purchase and call wives things bought. Thus toba nahu tuhor, my wife, that which I bought. Nevertheless, marriage among the Batak has remained one of the exchange and has never fully developed into purchase. This bride price is merely a token given by one ship to another to be reciprocated in kind. The price a girl brings does not depend upon her age, beauty, or capacity for work, but is the same in size as that paid for the mother and granddaughter and grandmother. The, the father thus secures back the same account he paid for his own wife. Possibly the earliest form of ship marriage among the Bataks was one of exchange between two ships of mutis, as is now the case between the two ruling ships. Cousin marriage kept the two ships exogamous, and the bride price maintained an even balance of trade between the mutis. In Toba, the bride price varies from $50 to $1,000 to the owners per buru of the girl get the man's share of the money. These are in most cases the father of the girl and his brothers. If the father is dead, one of the girl's brothers may be her per buru, but all male relatives, even the most distant, receives a certain share, a chief of the village, and also the village in males obtain a portion, thus showing that originally the price was divided among all shipmates. A smaller return a smaller return present is made to the family of the groom. As a rule, the bride price is not remanded in whole. Usually, only half the amount is paid. The two families get along well together. The remainder is never asked for. Cancellation of the debt, however, is unknown, and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren can be held responsible. If the price be entirely paid, the groom has the right to demand that jewels and clothing be given his wife as dowry. If the woman is not of noble birth, these are of considerable value and become the property of the man. If the price is not entirely paid, the children at death or upon divorce remain with the mother, who retires to her family. All these rules are not always obeyed. Sometimes no bride price is paid because the two families are on good terms with each other. The king of the woman then often turns to the family of the man for financial assistance and aid in the fields. If then, however, there is a divorce or the man dies, matters may be very complicated so far as the children are concerned. Some then insist that the bride price is as good as paid, others pretend that it is not in the family of the man, have no claim on the widow and children. The usual settlement is to pay the bride price without making deductions for the settlements made during marriage, so that it would in fact have been cheaper to have paid the stipulated amount at the time of the wedding. Occasionally, a marriage is contracted for which there is no intention for ever paying the bride price or its equivalent. This form of marriage is both a disgrace to the woman and her future female descendants, who then also will be forced to marry without bride price. A girl given away in this fashion is called baru mangambe by the Toba. The word mangambe indicates that the arms of the person in question dangle as she walks. Such a girl may be suffering from an infectious skin disease, or she may be a girl of noble birth who has given herself to a slave, or she may be bearing the consequences of adultery without wishing or being able to name the man. A fairly common form of matriarchal marriage occurs among many of the patrilineal peoples of the Indies, such as the Bataks, Gayos, natives of South Sumatra, and Lampong in the Moluccas. The native Malay term for this form of marriage is ambil anak, which simply means to produce children. This being perhaps the main purpose of such an arrangement. When this form of marriage exists, the man lives with the family of his wife, pay no bride price, and the children belong to the wife's family. Naturally, the service marriage is merely a temporary form of the ambil anak. The most common form of the ambil anak marriage is when the father of the bride has already reached old age and wishes to take the bridegroom into his family as male inheritor. The son-in-law is then adopted into the house of his father-in-law, lives there at his expense, and works for him. If the son-in-law ever has sufficient money to pay the jujur after the death of the parent-in-law, he can obtain title to the land. It thus becomes clear that the bride price among the Bataks was an important factor in determining the patrilineal reckoning of the ships. Had there been no bride price and had marriage remained a matter of exchange between ships or families, as it was occasionally among the Lampung people of Sumatra and still is among many of the tribes of New Guinea, then the ships would have become either matrilineal or matrilineal depending on the ownership of the hen and etc. When, however, the bride price becomes too high, there is a tendency for the payment to be divided altogether. For residents to become matrilocal, for the property to remain in the hands of the bride's family, and perhaps eventually for the ship to become matrilineal. While this last named event probably has never taken place in Sumatra or elsewhere, multi-local residence has been frequent enough among the Bataks to change the ships from territorial to genealogical units. Forms of marriage. The following forms of marriage are listed by Norman for the South Batak and are general throughout the Batak country. In all cases, the bride price or its equivalent must be paid. 1. After an engagement. 2. After the childless death of the woman, when the father or his heir waris is obliged to furnish another daughter, although nearly always a younger sister of the deceased. Through inheritance or succession. 4. Through abduction. 5. After the free will coming of the girl to the man of her choice, Mahiompo or Maniompo. After this dishonorable treatment, when the girl has the right to force her lover into marriage, Manaik. 7. When this honorable treatment brings visible consequences or becomes public, the girl then can go to the house of her lover and force him into marriage, Mandakit. 8. After violation, Mamintui. Abduction is a regular form of marriage according to the Adat. Its main purpose is to avoid the expense of a wedding. The bride price must be paid in full, however, one half at once, and the remainder is in installments. Marriage in the regular form among the nobility may almost equal in cost to returns for the bride price. It involves not simply the fees, but the parents of the girl must also furnish her with clothing, decorations, and house utensils. Thus, both sides gain the abduction. Thus, both sides gain by the abduction. The parents of the youth delay giving half the bride price. The parents of the girl avoid giving most of the dowry. When an adoption is regularly performed by the youth brings the girl to a town kampong other than his own and she leaves some token behind, such as a piece of cloth under her sleeping mat to show that she has gone of her own accord. The youth sends word to the parents of the girl that he has adopted her, and this pretend to be very angry, but the wedding is gone through as a matter of form by the simple killing of a carabao. Sometimes the elders of the girl are utterly opposed to match, while those of the youth desire it. Even then, the matter is legal, provided that the difference in rank between the couple is not too great. The elders of the girl must give in to save her reputation. The initial payment on the bride price is reduced then, but not to half. This actual capture marriage does exist among the Bataks, nor is the abduction marriage in any sense of a survival of capture marriage. It is rather than elopement in our sense of the word. Marriage by violation is allowed only in exceptional cases. When a Raja, for example, is in love with a woman beneath his rank and she refuses him is over, he is allowed to violate her. However, he must pay the bride price and marry the woman. If he wrongs the woman in either of these respects, he is liable to have his subjects swear off their allegiance to him and complain to another Raja. Likewise, if a widow sells a vision to her waris, he is allowed to violate her after having informed his Raja of his contemplated action. Normally, marriage takes place when the youth is about 18 and the girl 15. However, the girl can marry as young as 10, i.e., before the age of puberty. The man sends a mediator to take the proposal, as it is not thought proper to speak directly concerning the matter. The girl would be ashamed to give in at once, and she first investigates the character, worth, and appearance of the suitor. Upon yielding to the pleas of the mediator, she says, "If so and so wishes to make use of the daughter of a poor man, let him ask my parents." This is taken as a sign that she has given her consent. The young man then goes to his sopo communal house and seeks a dream. He takes a separate sleeping place apart from the other apart from the other youths, use a pillow of rice and prays to his ancestors and the gods for a guiding dream. If he dreams that he is harvesting rice or drinking clear water, it is considered a favorable omen. It is inauspicious, however, if he dreams that he is tilling the ground or climbing a mountain. In the latter case, he avoids the marriage. Some men go to a soothsayer and see if their names fit with those of their brides. In order to produce children, the names of married couples and therefore the tonti souls of the couples have to be in accord. If all the omens are auspicious, the man gives his future father-in-law and the daughter presents as pledges. The bride price and the date of the wedding are then arranged. The son-in-law brings meat for the wedding, pays for the bride price, and takes the bride back to his village. It can be seen that in all forms of marriage, excepting violation inheritance, the choice of the girl is the primary factor. The bride price counts for but little, as a marriage will not be delayed if it cannot be paid at once. A Batak girl, when marrying, is supposed to be as favorably inclined towards the family of her husband as she is towards her spouse in self, and therefore not to be averse to a second marriage within the family. The wedding ceremony. The wedding ceremony is performed by the Raja. As a part of this discourse, he says, if the man dies, he will be replaced. If the woman dies, she will be replaced. As a sign that the bride and groom from now on belong together, they must eat out of the same plate of rice, which has an egg in the middle, sit on one mat, and allow themselves to be wiped in the same mat. Eventually, the groom takes his bride home to the house of his parents. On the way, the woman gives her vent to her assumed sorrow. With deep sobs and tears, she sings her songs in lamentation. After the ceremony, the couple is taboo robbed for 4 or 7 days. This is their honeymoon. During this time, they can do no work, with the exception of stamping a little mill. They cannot go to the rice field or a river or cross a river. The actual marital status of the Bataks is to establish until the first child is born. Before this time, it is not thought proper for them to appear in public together, and they would be ashamed to be seen talking or walking with each other. While marriage is usually patriarchal, within a year the marriage couple must pay a visit to the father of the woman. If the pair are not cousins, the mother's brother tulang has the right to demand that the married pair also visits him and fulfills their requirements. Presents are exchanged between the wife and the tulang to show that the marriage bond is not broken. Polygyny. The Batak have no law concerning the number of wives they may have, but to their cost the common members of the village regularly have more than one. In Toba, the chiefs have The chiefs have from 3 to 5 wives, never more than 8. The first wife has certain rights over the others. Sometimes a Batak will take second wife at the wedding of his first wife of his first one. If the first wife can bear no children and would rather share her husband with another woman than be divorced, there are sufficient women in the Batak country to permit the chiefs to have several wives, for in former days many of the men were sold into slavery and others migrated to its Sumatra or the mainland. Pregnancy. When a woman is pregnant, she has certain taboos to observe. She cannot, for example, sit long in the doorway. She cannot be present when another woman gives birth to a child. She may not use remains of food nor take food from another. She is not allowed to loosen her hair, nor her husband to cut his. No fire can be taken from her hearth for the purpose of kindling other fires. The husband is not allowed to kill any animals. During the last months, the husband will not leave his wife alone at nights, for it is during this period that she is plagued by bad dreams. The gods, the Bata, or the emissaries visit the unborn children then and give them their future lost in life. Childbirth. When a child is to be born, all the men are required to leave the house and the patient is assisted by women only. The mother gives birth to the child in a sitting position. After the child is born, the placenta, called Anggi, younger brother or sister, is watched for. A sharpened piece of bamboo is used to cut it. The placenta is buried in the space beneath the house, and upon it is supposed to hang the welfare of the child, containing as it does a part of his soul only. At a difficult childbirth, various kinds of sympathetic magic are used, such as untying knots, opening doors, etc. If the woman dies, her body is not given honorable burial, but is thrown under the house and burned. According to the Batak belief, such a woman committed a serious crime and her tondy soul no longer wished to remain with her. After the children is born, the woman is laid with her back to the fire and kept warm for a couple of days. During this time, the fire is taboo. In the southern Batak country, as in Aceh, a steam bath is used. The mother and child are placed in the kind of oven for 15 or 20 days, under which damp wood is placed. The Gayo and the toba of central Batak land have a custom called manuon apinya duhu. They bring away from the fire of Tatardov on the fourth or seventh day after the birth of the child. The mother takes the child on her left arm and a stick of burning wood and a stick of burning wood from the fireplace in her right. She extinguishes the wood in the water and throws it into the shrubbery. Then she takes a bath, washes the child, and carries it in a cloth bag to the village. Names. Sometimes a child is given a name on the day on which it is taken to the river for its first bath, but often the name giving is delayed and the boy is called by the Karo Sitangat and the girl is Boru. Usually, however, a name is given on the fourth or eighth day. A boy is named by the mother's brother, or the mother's brother's wife. The father's sister names the girl. The father or mother give second and third child their names. All names naturally begin with the article C, and the same names are given both sexes. It is taboo to name children after blood relatives, living or dead. Rice kernels may be used as lots to determine lucky names, or again, the child may be allowed to choose its own name. In this case, the name giver slowly pronounces a long list of names, and if the child laughs after one of them, it receives this name. Each Batak actually have two names, a proper name and a ship name. The ship name is always asked for at greetings. Thus, is the name of a Karo man who belongs to the Submarga Bukit. Therefore, the man is called si Samping Bukit. Children of chiefs receive other names than commoners, as for instance, si Raja Balas the chief, si Anggur, he who is ever renowned, si Taro, fear of anxiety, such as thunder curses. Circumstances occurring at birth sometimes determine the choice of names was, for instance, si Perang war. Sometimes animal names are given without, however, the implying totemism, as in the case of the two brothers Gajah the elephant and si Beruang the bear. Opprobrious names may be given to ward off bad luck, such as si Bengkala, a variety of monkey. Special names may be given to obtain good luck, as when a sick child is named Sibolat, round, and flat. If the parents had previously lost children, a child often is given no name at all. When he is older, he either picks out a name for himself or is called by a nickname which by custom becomes his real name. Examples of such nicknames are Sigopok Fat, Sikeling Dak, Sing Halise, etc. People changes their names as often as they wish, and for some relation as is customary in Polynesia, sickness. If a child is sick, the parents will change its name in the hope that it will recover. Notice of the change in name must be given to the people of the village. Technonomy. The custom of technonomy among the Bataks is unquestionably due to the rigid taboo on the utterance of personal names. Neumann believes that the avoidance of names is due to ghost fear, but Teichmann writes that there is an adat against the mentioning of names enforced by law. In Timur, it is forbidden, even when alone, to pronounce one's own name or that of one's elders bloodily. If a man is hurt infringing this law, criminal accusation can be brought to the Raja by the witness. Now, while it would be highly improper for a child to mention the name of his parents or, as we shall see, for a subject to mention the name of his Raja, there is no objection for a person of higher status to mention the name of a person of lower years of status. In the same way, it is improper for a person to mention the name of another of the same status. As a consequence, the inconvenience of the situation can be avoided either by the use of relationship terms or by reference to the paternal or grandpaternal status of individual in question. A Batak will not tell his own name, or that his father did this would cause misfortune. If one asks a Batak his name, he will not answer, but will nudge one of his companions to make him give the information. Above all, he will not give the name of his grandfather Opu. If one asks a woman the name of her husband, she will not answer, but pointing to her child, she will reply Amanion, or father of this one. Amanion, father of this one. Amani, Opuni, father Amani and Opuni, father of and grandmother of so and so. All proper names begin this way among the Bataks. They call themselves after their sons and grandsons. The name Opuni is more honorable, and therefore every Batak longs to have it. Sometimes even young men acquire this title by the following method, and may choose for his young son a grown-up woman, and the son, not as yet being old enough to take care of his manly duties, the father will intercede in the marriage and presently have grandchildren. When a man is father and has taken the title of Amani, it would lead to work to call him by his own name. Among the toba, the word goar means name. One never asks a person his name directly, however, by saying Ise goar, what is your name? Instead, one says Ise panggoaranmu, what is the name of the child after whom you are called? The man then answers, for example, Si Dangol panggoaraku, my name is Amani Dangol. A father and mother name themselves after their first child, and if it dies after the following. If the first child is a girl and the second boy is girl, the father calls himself after the son. Not only not only is it forbidden to mention the name of superiors, but the names remain taboo after they are dead. It may even be forbidden to make use of words which contain syllables which were part of the name of former rajas. This rule is here as among certain tribes of North Sumatra and North America and North Asia at the cause of changes in the language. Thus, in Tanah Jawa, a district in Timur, it is forbidden to use any word which begins or ends in hok. Formerly, a raja called Hok Panaluan lived there. One must, one must therefore call a Karabau Sirangas. One must therefore call a Karabau Horbo Sirangas. One dare not use the common word to hok for buying, but boli instead. Treatment of children. Children in former times were taught mainly by imitating their elders. Only those destined to become priests thereto receive a more formal education, especially in the arts of reading and writing. In Toba, however, all the boys and girls learn enough of the art of writing to exchange love letters. These were written in native characters on pieces of bamboo, 1.5 inches in width and 1/2 to 1 feet in length. Children are seldom punished when they are very young. A parent would have to be beside himself with rage before he slapped, cuffed, or dragged a child over the ground. As everywhere in Indonesia, there is fear that the child might lose its tawny soul. A young girl is seldom punished and then always by the mother, not the father. When a girl becomes grown up, she may be much more roughly treated, especially if she refuses to marry a man of the parents' choice or follows a man against the wishes of the parents. Then she may be cursed, allowed to starve, or whipped with rods. A girl who marries and runs away from her husband is treated still worse. If the girl persists in her determination to leave her husband, the father must pay back the bride price and the cost of the wedding. In order to make her change her mind, the father may beat her with rods, drag her by the hair, or put her in the stocks. Again, he may bind her hands and put beating hands on her back. If the husband agrees to take the girl back, which he does by accepting a small present from the father, the girl promises never to run away again. She is allowed her liberty and loaded down with presents. The punishments which may be inflicted by the father or seller of the girl are so severe that many girls have taken their lives rather than endured them. Often, if a girl threatens to take her life, a father will pay the fine even if he has to borrow the money. If suicide of the daughter would occasion much unfavorable gossip at the expense of the father. Puberty ceremonies are of little importance for either girls or boys in Western Indonesia and are probably in the nature of survivals as in Polynesia. In none of the accounts which I have read of Western Indonesia, nor in my experience in Mentawei, is mention made of any restrictions placed on girls the time of the first or subsequent menstruation. The Toba Bataks call a menstruating woman Diogo Bulan moon, and there is a folk belief that the moon is her lover. One puberty ceremony for boys similar to that I have observed in Niue and Samoa is connected with the hair. The hair of a Batak boy cannot be cut before the canine teeth have appeared, and then it cannot be all removed, but the lock must remain standing. This is done for fear of losing the soul bonding. Filling and blackening of teeth is common among the people of Indonesia. We can believe that filling is a substitute for knocking out of teeth as a puberty right, and blackening of teeth to negate the loss is a substitution for filling. In Oceania, the knocking out of teeth at puberty is practiced in Australia, part of Melanesia, among certain peoples of Celebes and Formosa. In Enggano, a woman has two of her incisors knocked out by her parents at the time of marriage in order to show that she is no longer free, but the property of another. Among the Bataks, the feeding of teeth kiku takes place about the type of puberty or a couple of years earlier for boys, while the teeth of girls are filled when they reach approximately the age of 7. The mutilation is limited to incisors. Boys have half the crown cut away with a fine file, and girls have the entire crown removed. On the same day, the mutilated teeth are rubbed with baja, a tar stuff made from the smoke of wood, to make them appear black. After the boys and girls have had their teeth filled, they are considered grown up and are allowed to chew betel. Among the southern Batak, there are certain professional teeth fillers called baul ipon. Girls are operated on earlier than boys, for it is believed that if they had already menstruated, the filling operation would cause sickness to the filler. The reason given for the operation is that a person with unfilled teeth resembles a dog. When after a boy or girl has had his teeth filled with his robu tabu for 7 days or longer, at least until the pain stops and the wounds heal, he is not allowed to appear in public or ask for siri. Circumcision is an ancient custom among the Bataks, as among many of the other primitive people of Indonesia, and is called batotak. It is performed on boys in secret. The paper is split gradually by squeezing the upper part between two pieces of bamboo. It is no longer a puberty rite, nor is it required for all males. Anyone, however, who is not circumcised is not allowed to kill chickens. Girls are insisted. Among the southern Batak, there are two methods of circumcision: an old one in which the prepuce is split, and the Mohammedan one is in which it is cut off. Girls are also girls also insist in this region. The Muslims Mohammedan preachers perform the acts on boys, but girls are still insisted by women. The girls are operated on before the 7th year, the boys at puberty. A meal is given at the time of the circumcision, to which the relatives are invited. The Datu Batak priest or Malim who performs the operation is paid. This, those operated on a robo for 7 days and cannot appear in public. Divorce. Nowhere does form Nowhere does the form of social organization so influence Indonesia more than the laws of divorce. In a strict patrilineal society, divorce can only be obtained at the will of the husband, and then is of exceptional occurrence, since the husband would not wish to lose the bride price. An exception to this rule is made in the case of adultery. Thus, in Buru and Aru, if the wife commits adultery, the man gets the bride price refunded. In the simplest or bilateral families of Indonesia, Mentawei accepted, divorce is frequent, and where there is a bride price, the rule almost everywhere holds that the bride price must be paid back if the fault lies with the woman, and not paid back if the fault lies with the man. The village or family had checks to frequent divorce. Among people with matrilineal as the Minangkabau, there is no bride price, and divorce is very frequent and can be obtained at will by either party. A difference also occurs between the patrilineal and matrilineal peoples of Indonesia. regarding the disposition of the children upon the divorce of the parents. Among strictly patrilineal peoples, such as the Bataks and the natives of Nias, all the children remain with the father. An exception is furnished in the case of Buru, where the woman sometimes is given a daughter as helper. Among shiftless people, the children are divided between the parents at divorce, and among matrilineal peoples, they naturally remain with the mother. Opinions are divided among the various authors regarding the possibility of divorce among the Bataks in former times. Justra, the foremost authority on Batak Adat, claims that the old Adat knew no divorce and that in no case could the woman seek a divorce. In the same way, one opposition raised the south of the South Bataks that apart from very unusual circumstances, a Batak marriage was for life. Both of these authors refer probably to the fact that it was almost impossible for a woman to obtain a divorce, but presumably a man could always send his wife back to her people if he had grounds and was willing to lose the bride price. Wheeler wrote in 1846 of the Mandailing Bataks. Neither a woman nor her relatives can demand a divorce, even if they are willing to pay back the bride price. A woman, however, can request a divorce from a man upon the repayment of the bride price or part of it. Impotence in the man gave the woman the right to separate from him or go to one of his relatives. The man can repudiate his wife and send her back to her people without recovering the bride price. He can also repudiate her without sending her back, but in this case he is obliged to furnish her a separate dwelling, food and clothing, and she must work for him. Warner states that Warner states this for the toba. Properly speaking, there can be no divorce after the bride price has been paid. This completes the purchase transaction, which afterwards cannot be cancelled. However, a man may be insulted by his wife and send her home. Then he recovers the bride price after she is sold again. He loses the cost of the wedding and is forced to make a considerable present to the relatives of the woman. 2. If the woman runs away, the man recovers the bride price and the cost of the wedding. The relatives put the woman in the block. Jung Hun says practically the same for October in 1847 when the customs were as yet untouched by white influence. Divorces seldom occurs among the Bataks, but they may occur in connection with a special adat called Seisei. If the man wishes to drive away his wife, nothing is said about the matter, for he was already paid for her. The wife in this case has nothing to get and the children go to the man. If, however, the woman wishes to separate from the man, then the adat Seisei comes into force. By this adat, the parents of the woman are obliged to give back the marriage price of 6 years of clothes, slaughter a carabao, and give a feast. If the man keeps the children, this makes divorce almost impossible for the woman. Joshua has described the ceremony of divorce as it took place among the Karo as follows. If a divorce takes place, a public meal is given. This is given by the guilty party as a form of conciliation. If no conciliation follows, however, this meal becomes a method of loosening the bonds of matrimony. After the end of the meal, the custom of kahkabohan takes place, i.e., a bamboo cooker is cut in two and thrown to the air while the assembled people are told about the divorce. If the two halves fall down alike, either hollow or concave below, this is taken as an omen that conciliation is not excluded. Otherwise, divorce is revocable. Naturally, a woman cannot divorce a man because of adultery, and a man is absolutely free, provided that he keeps away from married women. a woman can be made to pay for adultery with her life. Position of women. The position of women among the Bataks is perhaps the best illustration of the wide variation between the patriarchate in fact and in theory. Theoretically, the Batak woman, the Batak woman is bought and sold as a carabao or some inanimate piece of property over whom the owner has absolute rights and of whom he refers to as that which I have bought. Being a piece of property herself, she has no right to own any possessions, not even her ornaments, clothing, and livestock, chickens, as among the patrilineal people of Nias. Writing from the viewpoint Neumann says, women are purchased and become the complete property of the man. If a woman is guilty of adultery, her husband can slay her. He is only obliged to furnish her with the most necessary things, as a house, clothing, and food. But even these latter she must obtain for herself, as the husband only providing the field. The man can ill-treat his wife, even treat even treat her as a slave, so that after his death she will be included in the property he leaves. The only restriction which the husband has to observe is that he is not allowed to sell his wife outright, yet he is allowed to pawn her as a pledge for his debts. The greatest right that a woman has, and her only right, is that her husband cannot withhold sexual intercourse with her. Yet, even Neumann does not picture the position of the Batak woman as entirely in keeping with her status as a piece of merchandise. As we have seen, the younger women have the utmost freedom before marriage, as is general among the bilaterally reckoning Indonesians. In strict keeping with patrilineal reasoning, the bride price of a woman would sour were she not a virgin before marriage. Thus in Nias, a girl who is not a virgin or a woman which a widow sells at half price. Then again, it is more often the woman who chooses her future husband than her parents. Then the bride price is of secondary importance to the inclinations of the girl. Neumann is referring to this divergence in status between the unmarried and the married woman, between the house drudge and the social head of the house, when he says, the lot of a Batak woman is a peculiar one. One woman is the most abused, the next the most protected. Now she is bent under the hard yoke of the other, and then again she becomes arbiter in the cycle of her house companions and nearest relations. On the one hand, she is treated as a commodity for sale. On the other, she not infrequently stands forth adorned and jeweled. The Bataks themselves do not take their own concept of woman as a purchasable commodity seriously, and when they withhold part of the bride price, they sometimes say, she is not carabao, that she must be bought. Furthermore, while theoretically married woman has no direct redress for harsh treatment at the hands of their owners, particularly the Batak women are as well protected for actual physical harm as their civilized sisters. The other does not see in women objects which one can treat arbitrarily, but the entire population is made responsible for the protection of women. Wanting, shameless conduct, and insult to them are heavily punished. They can in fact demand satisfaction for the least injury done them. In time of war, the women are always spared. The missiles of the enemy are not allowed to enter the bathing place of the woman. The ultimate position occupied by women in any society depends on their part in the economic life of the group, and not upon real or fictitious rules of superiority implied by the terms matriarchat or patriarchat. The Bataks and the people of Minangkabau are neighbors sharing the same civilization and economic conditions. Hence, whatever difference there may be in the legal status of the women and of the two groups, their actual position in the everyday activities is very much the same. The wives of the rajas among the among the Bataks had even one advantage denied the Minangkabau women. They were able to have slaves perform the menial tasks of home and field that the Bataks usually practiced burial. Among the members of the Sembiring ship of the Cairo, however, cremation is the rule. This ship is largely of Davidian origin. Some years after cremation, the bones of the dead are dug up at the dead face, put in a miniature prow, and allowed to drift away. The normal course of events among the Cairo at time of the death is as follows. As soon as the death has occurred, the loud mourning cries of the women and children give notice of the fact. The family members living in the village hasten to the place. The body, wrapped in the white cotton, is brought out of the house and laid on the stretcher. A female shaman dances herself into ecstasy and informs the soul Bigu that he is now dead. The stretcher bearers then pick up the burden, carry it around the house an even number of times, and then to the grave under the accompaniment of the native orchestra, which plays funeral dirge. When the burial place Pendawawan the corpse is laid down and the shallow grave dug. Next, the souls of the spectators have to be driven out of the grave. This accomplishes the fiery muskets and dressing around with leaves. Now the face of the dead person is uncovered so that he can have his last glimpse of the sun, so that his soul will go into the next world with the sun, and then the burial takes place immediately. The mourners leave some food and drink to the grave while they themselves return to the village, take a bath, and then partake of food in the dead house. Usually the ghost of the dead is summoned that same night to possess a shaman. From this time on, communication is available with the deceased. Bodies of very prominent people are kept for a long time in the village, and sometimes they are not buried at all. In the later case, the body is placed in a chest formed by a hollowed-out tree trunk and fitted with a cover. Sometimes the chest is boat-shaped. An opening in the lower portion of the chest allows the fluids to escape. Usually, the casket is not placed in the grave but is kept above the ground in a fenced enclosure called Kubu. In many cases, a second mourning ceremony takes place after the flesh has decayed from the bones. This second ceremony has the purpose of sending the soul to the land of the dead. Amid the clanging of the orchestra, what is left on the bone of the body is burned. Pilas-pilasi is ready to beautify, and the skull is decorated and set up in the skull house. Common people have their bodies exposed on platforms, and very young children are either buried under the house or immediately burnt. It is felt that the priest will make use of their bodies in the preparation of the magical substance puk. Among the toba, cremation is unknown, and the bodies are either buried or, in the case of chiefs, preserved with salt and champo and placed in a wooden chest or hard stone sarcophaguses. These stone tombs often are elaborately carved with the phallic figures of men and women. Nowhere elsewhere in Sumatra other than Nias do we find trace of public or phallic worship. As among the Cairo, about a year after the death of an important chief, a second mourning ceremony is held and the bones are removed from the coffin. The shamans are possessed by the ghosts of the dead, and the elders of this take the opportunity to tell their descendants that from now on they will become natural spirits unbound and inhabit neighboring woods, mountains, and springs. They direct the people to bring sacrifices to these places. The feast for the dead lasts a week, but it may be extended from 3 months to an entire year. The invited guests are obliged to bring food to the feast. In times of disaster, as in epidemics and famines, the bones of the dead are taken out and fed so that the ancestors, this is the main which is demanding human lives. This fish lasts by the day, and food is placed between the jaws and of the skulls of, or if there are not to be found, it is wrapped on the other skeletal remains. The next morning, amid the beating of drums, the bones are replaced in their graves or containers. The use of puppets sigale is found only among the toba, and then only in connection with mortuary customs at the death of a rich man who leaves no male descendants. A wooden doll is made in the likeness of the deceased and dressed in his clothing. The doll is equipped with strings and is made to dance with the mourners in the marketplace. Finally, the doll is stripped of its clothing and decorations, and amid the fire of musketry drawn over the city walls. Hence the Batak proverb, rich for a man, rich for a woman, rich for a moment like a puppet. This drum is symbolic of the fate of a rich man who leaves no descendants to gather his ghost in the afterworld. Marks are used in connection with burial customs by the Timur Bataks. These marks are preserved in special buildings called rumah-rumah, which also house the bones of former rajas and their families. At the death phase of important people, a mass performance is enacted by two men. The one has a large wooden mask before his face. Before his face, the other wears variety of box work on his head in the form of the movable head of the hornbill bird. The two men perform all sorts of comical antics. Justra believes it probable that the formerly two slaves were utilized for the purpose of the play, and during its performance, one was seized, killed, and buried with his master. The Timur Bataks are the only people of Sumatra making use of marks artifacts which unquestionably originally were connected with the spirit impersonation in secret societies. Among the Kayan Dayaks of central Borneo, marks dances are held at harvest festivals, and the marks figures are said to represent spirits. Among the Toraja of central Celebes, marks images were used at the death feast in representation of the dead. It is not until we arrive at Dutch New Guinea, however, that we find marked spirit impersonators in actual secret societies. It may suggest that the Nuquid races, while passing through Indonesian, left traces on tribal initiations and secret societies in the form of puberty mutilations, taboo laurel, and the marks representation of spirits. Actual tribal initiation is found in the Kakian cult of Seram. On the other hand, Indonesians themselves may have brought tribal initiations and secret societies from the mainland and have lost the completeness of the trace to contact with Hindu civilization.